Hi, everybody, and welcome to the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vandergans, founder of Enso Coaching and Consulting, and I'm here with two of our amazing coaches, Adam and Libby.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
And we are joined by the amazing Beverly Theodore, who is the CEO and co-founder of Merakifit.
Yep.
We're so happy to have you.
Yeah.
Hey.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is so fun.
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about Merakifit.
Sure thing. So Merakifit, it's an online fitness platform specifically for high school students to help reduce injuries and prevent them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Tell us how'd you come up with the title?
So how I came up with the title, it's actually a Greek word. And so my grandparents are from Greece originally, and it means to do everything with love, to put your soul into it, and to leave a part of your soul into your work. And I feel like throughout life, that's just what I've always gravitated towards. That's how I work. And I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that. So I love the word. So that's how we came up with Merakifit.
Oh, that's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah. Okay. So it's an online fitness app for high school students to
Correct.
prevent injuries.
Correct.
So talk a little bit about how the app does that.
Yeah, sure thing. So essentially what our platform looks like is how we created this is through a lot of research and through talking to students and completing a bunch of interviews, and not just a couple, but we talked to over about 200 people at this point, getting their feedback. And originally how this came about was I had an online fitness platform during COVID, and I realized this is not scalable. I was recording a couple workouts every week, and the amount of work you do with editing, marketing, all of that, it takes a lot of time. And so I talked to someone who became my co-founder, and I said, this is just not scalable. And I kind of joked, like, how many times do I have to do a bridge? I'm overworking all these different muscle groups. And he said to me, well, what if you only have to record it once? And so what we did is he created an algorithm, and the way he wrote it was that it was based on the logic of how you put together a workout. So we sat down and had conversations on what that looks like. And so users, they can indicate their preferences. They can say, I want to work out for 30 minutes and I want it to be a beginner's Pilates workout. And they'll get a new workout every single time based on their preferences. And so for the high school athletes too, when we were interviewing them, they also really want to have accountability. And that's really what's missing a lot from online platforms related to fitness. And so what we have now is you can schedule your workout, you get calendar reminders, and invites everyone in your group. And then it's a Zoom-like interface. So you have the workout in the center, and then all the users can see each other. And it's a way to work out together and keep each other accountable. So
cool.
That's what the platform looks like in a nutshell.
How did you decide that you wanted to kind of gear your platform towards high schoolers in preventing kind of injury, and what's the story behind that?
So I love that question, because that was a really interesting and exciting process for us too, because it all related back to interviewing people. And during one of the interviews, someone said, hey, I coach soccer and I could really use this with my soccer team, because he couldn't even talk to them in the summer. That's a time where it's like 3 months where he doesn't interact with his students.
Yeah.
And so that's when we thought, wait a second, I think we have something here, and let's explore this. And then as we started to go down that route, we realized 9 out of 10 high school athletes experience an injury within high school. And then also too, like looking back and seeing, looking at the research and how many students experience injuries, seeing what they're expected to do now. It's just they're expected to really perform and drive, and they're working really hard and doing things now compared to when I was in high school. And it's just really stressful on their body. And so it's kind of a cumulative effect of everything that I've done in the past too, with dancing professionally. And I didn't have those resources in high school. And there's a real need for this.
Yeah.
So that's how it all came to be, essentially. Yeah.
Well, can you tell us about your journey? So you just kind of mentioned you're a professional dancer. So like talk to us about how you got to this point, like what brought you here.
Yeah, sure thing. So I danced my whole life. And in high school, I did, drill team in Texas, which is such a big
Like, oh yeah, that's like a whole thing. Yeah.
dance team, you know, and then I did Kilgore College Rangerettes. And then from there, I majored in dance in college and danced professionally in Vegas. And throughout that time, I was always having to go figure it out on my own, like how to take care of my body, how to reduce it from injuries. Like I just got lucky and my friend said, come to Pilates class with me. And I was like, I don't even know what that is, but sure.
Yeah.
And so I had to navigate, how do I still perform with injuries? And there wasn't very many resources. And so I experienced it myself where I've had injuries and just had to navigate that process. And then once I retired from dance, I went into physical therapy. So I learned a lot about the body, learned a lot about injury reduction that way. And I've also worked in the senior care space. So I've seen just the lifespan of what people go through. And if we can reduce injuries from the very beginning, let's do it. And because it has a long-lasting effect on your entire life.
And I imagine that as a dancer, when you say high school athletes and high school sports teams, this could also very much apply to high school dance teams and drill and things like that potentially.
Cheer.
Anybody using their body in that sort of way, particularly in a developmental phase.
Absolutely. And actually some of our users, we have a cheer team, we have a couple dance teams. And so it's anyone who's using their body in a way that's strenuous on your joints. It's applicable to everyone essentially.
Wow.
And I've worked with stuntmen, and so it's interesting to see people so young in their 20s and 30s and go through such a rigorous profession and they don't have a lot of resources either. So it's just anyone who moves their body in a way where they're stressing their joints.
Yeah. So talk to us about the content. So like, what are some of the things, like if you could pinpoint, 3 things that help, these athletes that are doing some really intense things to their bodies, like what are some things that you are like, do this is like absolute hands down successful?
So taking care of your whole lumbopelvic region. So what that means is understanding how to strengthen your core, how to protect your back. There's so many people with low back pain, especially in high school students. So what was
crazy?
It's so crazy. And so what was really interesting is when we had a team trial out our product, 4 students had significant back pain. And what I mean by significant is they experienced it every day. And then by the end of 30 days, only 1 student reported having some back pain every now and then. And then the other 3 students reported that they had 0 back pain.
Wow.
And so if you're thinking about like what areas do you really need to protect, it's also back pain, essentially how to strengthen your core, but it's also based on the individual, like what are they experiencing? So if you're having pain, just don't ignore it.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I think that's such a, in some of the conversations that we had, earlier with one of our guests and just kind of like overall health, I think is such a, where it used to be, it feels like a push through, like everything was, that hurts, just keep going, like keep pushing through. It doesn't matter. And
the 80s.
Yeah. That was the time. That hurts your voice. Do it more.
Yeah,
like,
right.
do it louder.
Yes, right.
Yeah, right. I mean, and so all of these things I think people are like undoing, right?
Yeah.
Or starting a foundation of that hurts. There's probably a reason. Like, why does that hurt? How do we fix that? How do we protect you from? And so it's just been very interesting to kind of see how that shift, especially in the land of the arts and performing and things like that, how there has been such a shift towards health rather than like, well, that's because you're not tough enough, right?
It is. It's a huge change in this mental, emotional connection with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And also, too, pushing through something is not going to give you the best results.
Yep.
And you don't get like a badge of honor either.
No.
Like that's the.
I mean, the reality is no one really cares.
Yeah.
The only person that affects is you.
Yeah.
And is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think prevention too. I love that this is happening with high schoolers specifically because, I have a degenerative disc disease. So I have my very lowest disc. Thankfully, it only affected 1 level for me, but my very lowest disc is basically just completely gone. And had I had a better education on the importance and specific ways to strengthen core, then I think, that would not necessarily have prevented this disc from degenerating, but I would be in such a better situation now because the education would have gotten me to a different place.
100%.
Yeah, I love this. I wish this were a thing when I was in high school.
I know. While you're dancing on like sprained ankles.
Yeah, right.
Just
Exactly.
being like,
Exactly.
do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Keep going. Well, so tell us a little bit about you talked a little bit about the co-founder. You had a conversation, kind of post-COVID, and how did you guys meet, and what was the process of getting Merakifit into a thing?
Yeah, so how we met was at a friend's dinner party, and we've actually been dating for the past 7 years.
Oh, okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Great.
Best.
So, and those type of relationships are sometimes the best relationships to work together, and that's what we realized too. Is we work really well together. We talked all through, and what also is very unique and great is we have very different specific skill sets. So we're not. What we bring together is unique, and also we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
So that's how we met each other. And also, too, we know each other's values. We've been through, difficult situations, so we know how to navigate that, and we trust each other. So we had all of that prior history. So going into working with each other really just set us up for success.
So when you say values, like what is, maybe one or two values that you guys completely align on when you're thinking about the business, but then also like in protecting your relationship?
Yeah. So when it comes to our values, something that we both we stress and we find it really important is having equality with everyone who's a part of our business. So not overvaluing a certain job title over the other, because what everyone brings makes the company successful. So a lot of times in tech companies, you see the technical roles being overvalued versus, operational roles. And that's just not the case in what we're doing.
I love that. I love that so much. Okay, so right now you guys have kind of you've created this app. You've got how many people are using the product currently?
So we have 232 users right now.
232
That's so
users.
cool.
Amazing.
Really great. And it's relatively new. You guys just launched pretty recently, right?
Yeah, we just launched this past July.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So what's kind of what is the next like iteration, or where are you guys headed in the next phase of the business as a whole?
Yeah, so the next phase of the business is we're continuing to onboard users, get as many teams to use our product so we can get feedback as well. And then also, too, we've taken the initial feedback from our users, user MVP, and we're rolling out just some changes with our product, too.
Yeah. And what's something that you've learned from the feedback that you've gotten from the users?
The users really want to have a way to engage with each other and, continue being motivated. So we're using a lot of their feedback to create internal basically features, but ways for the users to motivate each other a little bit more too. And also just simply getting their feedback on what content they want to see next. So I'm working on recording exercises that would be beneficial for each team. And so that way we're expanding our library of content too.
I love that so much. It's so cool. That's so cool. Okay, so tell us a little bit about when you were talking about the title and it coming kind of from your background. Like, what's kind of motivating you around this business model? Like, from this idea of Meraki?
Yeah, so essentially, it's just a accumulation of my whole life, essentially. And it's based on, we want to create a culture where it's based on equality, people that are excited to come to work, where they can have that work-life balance, where they feel fulfilled at work, but then they have that separation too. And then expanding onto that, it's, really about scaling a business where we can reach more than just one person and provide this for the masses. And so what I mean by that is we want to initially start with high school. We want to expand to college teams. And then from there, we do want to expand to individuals. And I've always wanted to share fitness in a way that's meaningful, that helps people, and not just on a one-on-one basis where we can reach millions. And this is a way to do it.
Oh, I love that. Because you were a coach.
Yeah, so I was a personal trainer, and then I became a certified Pilates instructor.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so I've taught Pilates for like the past 16 years at this point too. And I've always dabbled in, should I, go off and do my own business? And so I always kind of put one foot in and then stepped back because it wasn't the right fit for me because I wanted to do it in a scalable way. And so I did that multiple times just to figure out what worked for me. And then when this presented itself and me and Sauce were talking about it, I went all in because I know this is what is going to work.
Yeah. And what is it? What is it about this that you feel like this is going to work?
I think it's the perfect blend of technology and content and giving it to users. And it's something that they want. Because something where it's interesting, being from performing arts space with dance and then with fitness and teaching people one-on-one, going into more of the tech space, I was initially really intimidated and I had almost imposter syndrome. But then when I started talking to other founders, I realized I don't need to feel this way, and what I realized what it takes to build a startup is you have to have a lot of tenacity. You have to have drive, and you have to be willing to put in the work, and you have to talk to people. You have to talk to customers and figure out what they want. And so I think based on what we're doing, we have all those ingredients. And so we're both, Stas and I, were really focused on building a product for people, it's what they want.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to please every user, but we're also focused on just having a great product.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, I think we would all argue that having a background like dance, any kind of performance art requires that those ingredients, the tenacity and the drive and the having conversations and, being told no, I don't know how many times. And then you just got to keep on going. Right.
True.
And so like you've got the bedrock of what's needed, to go drive this.
And you bring up a really great point too, because I think a lot of performers downplay how much of an entrepreneurial spirit, and also whether they want to go down that route or not, they build up those skills. Being rejected, not taking things personally.
Right.
Being told no. And also a lot of the feedback you get is personal and you have to navigate and figure it out.
It is personal. Whereas in business, it's just like, oh, the timing's not right or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, they're literally like, you're too short. Please leave.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. They'll tell you and they'll pick apart everything. And so it's, silver lining is you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your self-worth, and you just have to figure it out because you're forced to.
Yeah.
Right.
You have no choice.
Right.
And then you go in ready.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious about, when you talked a little bit about like feeling a little bit of the imposter syndrome, like what was it specifically when you were like, oh, I'm okay?
I realized I was okay because I get things done. And I go in it 100%, and I'm not afraid to talk to people. I want to understand people, and I come from that place of being curious. And I didn't realize I downplayed how valuable that is, and that's a skill, and it's needed for a business to be successful. And I also just looked at how many times I've been in an operational setting, and I've either flipped the business or I've grown the business or I've, been a leader. And so once I just took a step back and realized, all those skills that I've been working on for the past X amount of years, all of that is valuable and it's really important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think you brought up a really good point around like listening to the customers and pivoting is just such a critically important part of any kind of a business. If you get so narrowly focused on like, this is the thing, and I'm just going to kind of keep trucking forward, you're missing a huge proponent of that. And so being flexible and curious to your point is something that, that we hear all the time around these businesses that we talk to. It's critical.
It is really critical because if you get too stuck on one idea, you can kill your business.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
Or just miss out on a great opportunity.
Yeah, it's that openness to possibility. That sounds cliche to say, but like I think that's the thing is sometimes we just close off those roads in the woods or whatever that don't seem like, and then it's that whole the road less traveled, and the rewards that you can find from that if you're just open to it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so in kind of this discovery process, as you're talking to some of these students and learning a little bit more, getting their feedback, has there been like a major pivot that you guys have made from kind of what you thought you were, or some direction that you thought you were going to, like, oh, let's like think a little bit differently about this?
I think the biggest pivot was initially we were doing B2C, and then our biggest pivot was doing B2B, focusing on high schools. That was our biggest pivot. And then also just getting the feedback from high school students. They're so articulate. They provide so much great insight. They're super honest. And so it's nice to understand. They gave us a lot of feedback on what really motivates them. What apps do they use?
Yeah.
And what's important to them.
Yeah.
So, and then also just what injuries they're experiencing. And so that was super helpful. And also, too, they're going to give you a straight answer. They're not going to tell you, they're going to tell you whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, what are some things that you've learned from these high school students?
So they're motivated by working out with others.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to work out by themselves.
That's a big thing.
They like the camaraderie.
They like the camaraderie. They like how it's another way of building a team, and getting to know each other. It builds up that communication.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. And it's outside of what they're not doing their sport per se, or they're not performing, but it's another environment. It's another space for them to get to know each other and build a bond with their other teammates.
Yeah. What are you say, like from a data perspective, like if they start, participating or using the app, like what is the frequency, or like how often are they engaging with it? Are you seeing some of those like are you capturing some of those data points?
Yeah, so we're capturing all those data points of how often they work out. So sometimes it's like set by the coach. The coach says like you have to work out, 3 times a week.
Right.
Or you have to obtain these hours over the summer. And then what's great to see is when you have students that just do it because they love it and they want to do it. And that's our goal. So that's our goal, is so that they just love it and that they're doing it on their own. And so we are seeing that. And then we are seeing, a lot of students are doing it because they're forced to do it. But then they realize, hey, I like this. I really
it becomes
enjoy
a habit, and it's one of
It's
a habit, and also they're benefiting from it because they feel it in their body. I'm stronger and I don't have back pain, so it's a combination of all that too.
Right. Well, and you talked a little bit about the algorithm being created around some kind of key points that the user would actually input.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that there's probably, and this is a question for you, that those workouts are getting more tailored to the individual. So they're probably, rather than doing a specific workout, they're getting to do things that they enjoy.
It is about things that they get to enjoy, and also not having to search for something that's specific and customized for them. They can indicate their preferences and then get a workout that's tailored to them. So part of it too is, being able to say, here are my preferences based on what works for me, and getting that workout experience immediately versus having to search constantly for in a pre-recorded library and go, okay, what should I do today?
Yeah. It's faster.
It's faster.
Yeah. Which is what everybody's looking for these days, right?
Get in and get it done.
And also people want to have that personalized experience.
Yes.
And it truly brings the personalized experience because it comes from a place where it's based on the knowledge and logic of how you put a workout together. And it comes from, background of fitness and physical therapy versus just this random AI-generated workout. We're not doing that. It's based on the logic of how you put together a really customized workout.
Yeah.
And there's some ownership in being able to customize your own workout too. We talk about that in the voice world all the time. Like if we sit together and do it, I could give you a thing to do. But if we sit together and customize it together, then you have ownership.
You bring up a really good point too, because it's that whole combination of the coach having input, but then the students having input, and then they're doing it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very synergistic.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's really fascinating. I mean, I have 80 more questions for you.
Go for it.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you this: like, what's like one big thing that you've learned about yourself throughout this process? Of kind of building the business. Obviously, working with your partner to create this business, but then also like really getting it into the hands of these students.
Yeah, I think the thing I learned the most about myself is just understanding my self-worth. And it comes back to being intimidating or feeling I had imposter syndrome going into building a tech startup. And then realizing, no, I don't need to feel that way at all.
Yeah.
I have that skill set. I have that drive. I have that experience both with the content, what we're building, also the operations and the business side. And so just not doubting myself, or when I do, it looks very different than before. So if it's not going to stop me. So that's what I've really learned the most about myself through this process. And it's something that I feel is very relatable too, because I think everyone goes through that. And also too, I think a lot of people downplay their skill set.
Yeah. And what is that? So now you said it might creep in a little bit, but it looks very different. Like, what does that look like when it does creep in?
Oh, usually it's that internal self-talk too.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'll say, oh no, I can't do that. I'm like, wait a second, why do I think I can't do that? Okay. And then usually it's based on just these irrational fears. And so then I'll talk to myself and just, go, okay, and just be logic about it. Bring logic to the equation and just say, okay, no, and here's what I need to do, and why am I getting in the way of accomplishing what we need to accomplish? And honestly, that takes about 30 seconds at this point, and then just move forward. Again, I don't think people really share that because they see it as a sign of weakness, but I don't see it as a sign of weakness at all. I think it's more about knowing yourself as a person and then being thoughtful about what you do. Without letting it stop you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I just want to ask, what is an irrational fear that has come up for you in this process?
Well, the fear of failure. You don't want to fail, and I know we're not going to fail, and it's just about what are the steps that we need to take to succeed and how are we going to do it? And that's a great thing about having a co-founder is that when, you're going through something, you can lean on each other, and we both bring a different insight to things, different skill sets, and we're there to support each other versus I think being a solo founder is really, really hard. It's doable, but having a co-founder makes a huge difference.
I mean, I think we've heard that multiple times through people that we've had conversations around, which is like having that one other person who's thinking about things holistically and like really supporting not only from like an emotional ethereal space, but also from a logical execution space. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's great because then we're there for each other and we can just drive it forward and not let anything stop us too.
Yeah. Well, and there's something that you said around really reframing from this is a failure to okay, let's get into action and let's take steps forward because I do think it can be really easy to spiral when you're in your head about, oh, this could go wrong and what could be, how do we fail here? And, all of those things too. What action steps do we need to take?
Yeah, we have a product roadmap. My co-founder, that's his background is product, and also too, just the way I operate is based on a plan, I'm less stressed if I have a plan. And I know you have to be flexible and you have to pivot. And so that way we can just get things done.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, what does the team look like right now? Is it just the two of you, or do you have some other people that are working with you guys on this?
So it's the two of us, and then we are building out a team. We do have some contractors. We have a great developer in Ukraine who's working with us. That my co-founder, he's Ukrainian, and so they've worked on a previous startup together, and he's fantastic. So we have a great developer, and then we're also building out where we have someone who's helping us with the marketing and the branding, and then also a UX designer. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's the next iteration of growth for you guys from the team standpoint?
Probably most likely it'll be from the content perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it, like where my hesitation is it just also depends on what we're seeing and where the need is. But most likely it'd be from the content side, getting other instructors so that way we can scale out the content. So it's not just me.
Yeah. You're like, please.
And people want to have a different instructor. They resonate with a different instructor.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. You like start to diversify your people, and it's like a Peloton situation where you have all different humans and energies and, all of that.
absolutely, where we want people to be able to indicate in their preferences one instructor,
Mhm.
because that resonates with people. They want to pick their instructor, but they can pick, I want a 30-minute workout, intermediate level, this instructor, and then you get that workout.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So from a visibility, I'm kind of jumping back, but from a visibility perspective, do when the coaches are engaging with you and then the students are participating, do they have like a coach viewpoint into how their teams are participating or engaging, or is it really just kind of, I don't know, like participation numbers or, whatever?
I'm glad you brought that up because we're building out a coaches portal.
Cool.
And so we're building out a coach portal, and we're getting feedback from the coaches on what they want to see, what they want to track, goals specifically, and also to attendance. So right now the coaches get weekly attendance reports, so that way they can see which students are participating. But we want to take the operational point away from the coaches, so it's one less thing they have to stress about with injury prevention and also like strength and conditioning. So they have access to that, but then also the student has their own dashboard and it looks different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
So fantastic.
I know. I keep thinking about like how nice would it be if we had like visibility into how our clients are doing and progressing on things.
Oh, yeah.
Of actually support what we're supporting them on, like how great that would be. And then to be able to really, I mean, again, going back to this like customized bespoke experience, the coaches then being able to like know exactly where they need to support their team members. Like it just, you're putting all the energy in the right places, but then the coaches are actually really targeting what they need to support their team members with too.
absolutely, because then you can tie it back to performance. So, how are they performing this year? Let's look at what they've accomplished through this portal. Like, what do we need to focus on going into the next season? And what does that mean? Or, we've seen these gains, we've seen these improvements. And you can go back and look at how it's related to what we're offering.
Yeah. And I just imagine as you continue to build this out, like the ability to kind of take this aggregate data and to be able to provide this to other organizations is just, super fruitful.
100%. And we're data driven.
Yeah.
Very data driven. And so we're collecting that data so that way we can share it with coaches. And also too, directly tie it back to when you have a student that's injured and you have to take them out of the sport, it affects everyone.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so ultimately we do not want that to happen, and we're doing everything we can to prevent that.
Yeah. Also for the kiddos' development.
I know.
All that.
It's hard. Yeah. Well, it's awesome. Okay, so big picture, what's next for Merakifit?
So we're just going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
We're working on just onboarding as many teams as possible. So that, and also just taking all the feedback that we receive from our MVP from those users and creating out the coaches dashboard. That's a big focus, both the dashboards we're working on right now.
I love that.
So
I love
cool.
that.
And then we'll expand into colleges after high schools.
Great. Great.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Where can people learn more about it?
Yes.
So you can go to merakifit.co to sign up, to learn more. Or you can just contact me directly. You can find me on LinkedIn, just at Beverly Theodore, and I respond to everyone. So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
This was so great.
Thank you so much.
So good to talk
thank
to you.
Yeah.
Just, the less injuries in college sports, high school sports.
And the
better.
educational aspect of that, I
So
think. Like
good.
the acute injury in the moment.
Yeah.
But then also how can I take those workouts and those lessons that have been tailored for me and carry them through in a fitness journey throughout life?
Right.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah,
Huge.
absolutely.
It really
Absolutely.
is.
you're stepping into another gap, and we just love talking to co-founders that are really finding a space that needs that needs some attention.
Well, I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Really
Can't wait
appreciate
to see it all
I know.
in the world.
Great. Thanks so much. And thank you guys for joining us. As always, please subscribe to the As You Are podcast on all platforms, and we will see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.